Hello, shiny crafty people, and welcome back to the channel. Tim Totten here, and today I'm going to bring you a really awesome video that is inspired and adapted from a video by some really amazing YouTubers, not ZooTubers. Wouldn't that be funny? ZooTubers? As far as I know, they're completely human, but they are from Katchi Vatchi, and it is Jordan, the fantastic sewing maven wife, and her husband Jared, who normally runs the camera, but the video I saw of them was them making a beard mask. So I have made a version of that I want to share with you, and I've adapted their mask to what I think would work really well, and I've just made a few minor adjustments that I think are really cool. One of them is I added one piece of elastic to go around the back of your head. Oh. And then I added another piece, a toggle, snap, whatever you want to call this thing, to go around the back of the head. And the great part about that is when you're done wearing it, or you need to take it off for a minute, you can just pop it down. So easy. So join me down here at the cutting table and I'll show you everything that we need to do to get started. So we're gonna need 2 pieces of fabric, and this one I've just cut the same fabric and doubled it over. I've got a junky pair of scissors because I'll need that to cut the tie stuff that we're gonna put for the nose piece. Got a decent pair of scissors, a seam ripper, because you know, I like to make mistakes. I've got this really nice stiletto that I'm going to use. I'm going to use some elastic and some of these little clips, or these toggles to make the elastic tighter. I will use a rotary cutter and a grid for it, and I'm going to use a very surprising thing, this dog collar from the dollar store, from Dollar Tree, and literally I'm going to use it because I'm going to make the part that connects around the back of the neck. So let's get started. Now I've pre-cut this fabric. You could use 2 pieces of fabric. I've used just one because I don't mind it being doubled over, and they're both going to be literally 16 inches long. So this is a 16, and in fact I have this has already been folded over, but I will go ahead and cut it just so we can do it as if you had 2 different pieces of fabric. So you would cut those out with your rotary cutter. You can draw them on and then cut them with a pair of scissors. So I have those 2 pieces, which of course we're going to put right sides together. Now this is really wide, it's 10 inches across. And that's because most of the people you're making a beard mask for probably have a little bit bigger face, like mine, and we're gonna take some seam allowances off the sides anyway. So this is gonna get down to more like 9.5 inches when it's done. I'm gonna then get a piece of elastic that'll go around the back of the head. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut a piece of this black elastic, and I'm gonna go 10 inches on this. So I'll go to my table and figure out where my 10 inches is and just notch that out. So I have a 10-inch piece of elastic around the back of the head, and we'll use a toggle on it so that it'll be comfortable. I'm also going to, that piece of elastic will go from the sides here, and then we'll put a nose piece in as well. So the first thing we're gonna do is stitch along this edge and the other edge, and come back over here to the table, or actually over to the iron, and iron it out. Let's go to the sewing machine. All right, so I have my pieces here, and I'm just gonna do the short sides. Those are the 10-inch long sides, not the 16-inch sides. And I'm gonna use a standard 1/4 inch seam allowance at my sewing machine. If you needed to pin this or clip it ahead of time, you're welcome to do that, whatever's easier. Now I'm just making a 2-layer mask, but you could, of course, decide you wanted 3 layers, or you could add a pocket. And if you were doing 3 layers, you would just layer another piece of fabric on top of here, and you would then sew it together and just turn it inside out with the 2 edges to each other. All right, so let's go to the other end down here. So now basically I've stitched both ends together, and I have a big tube of fabric. Ta-da! Big tube. All right, so our tube is done, and I need to put in both the dog collar and our elastic. So let's do the elastic first, and it's 10 inches, which is about the same width as the entire piece here. I'm gonna put the elastic, I'm gonna open this up so I can see where that seam is. And I'm going to pin the elastic here, just at the top corner. And I'm gonna feed it through, flat through the other side, and pin it on the other side. Also right up to the other corner, up here. And I'm almost all the way at the corner there. Literally within a quarter of an inch, or an eighth of an inch actually from there. So that will be that part. The next thing we need to do is get this dog collar open. And I'm just gonna use my non-sewing scissors here. And this was $1, and that's great because you might not even be able to find all these buckles and everything for $1. So we're gonna open this up by taking out some of the, well, let's see how it's closed up. They've got it all closed up in here, and I wanna be able to have this go around the back of someone's neck. So I need to first figure out how long that's gonna be. I guess for $1 it doesn't open up very well. Okay. I'm gonna take this all the way out. I still wanna leave all these adjustable pieces on it though, because that would be kind of fun to be able to adjust how long it's gonna go around the back of your neck. Right? And what I wanna do is basically cut this in half, and so one side on this side and one side on the other. So let me completely open this up as much as I can, and then I'll find the center point. I'm just gonna do that by literally connecting it back again, putting my finger in there and pulling out this way. And when I do that, I know that that's the halfway point. So I'm gonna chop that. And now I've got the piece that's gonna go around the back of someone's neck. And the way I do that is I will lay this in. Now you might wanna make it also 10 inches, so you could shorten this. And in fact, I think I'll do that. I like that idea. I'll lay it in the middle and just trim it to about the same size as the entire piece. And then I'm gonna lay that in here just like I laid in the elastic at this end. So I'll open this up, find where that seam is at the bottom. And I wanna make sure I put this with the buckle facing down to this fabric, which is be the front. And I'll pin that on right at the bottom edge there, about 1/8 of an inch over. And then I'll feed it through and make sure it goes through straight. Remember, you don't want this to twist at all. At the other end, I flatten it out and go about 1/8 of an inch from this edge down here. And now that's all held in there as well. And then what we're gonna do is we're going to stitch up each side, but leave an opening on one side. So let's go to the sewing machine and I'll show you how to do that. So I'm gonna start here at the end with the elastic, and I'll start stitching down. I'm gonna use a little more than 1/4 inch seam allowance on these, probably about 3/8 of an inch. I'll hold my finger down where the elastic is to hold it in place and pull the pin out. And this one I'm gonna sew all the way down the side. Now we're gonna come and sew over that webbing. I'm just gonna pull the pin out and just go over it a couple times. I really wanna hold that in. I don't think anyone's really going to put a lot of wear and tear on this particular part of it, but I still wanna make sure I double check it. And I flipped it over to start at the elastic again. Oh, and this machine keeps leaving a long tail of threads. I'm gonna pull it out of the way and trim that in a minute. And it's important because of that big buckle is in here that we really hold this out flat. Make sure that I'm not getting a lot of that, getting that buckle under the machine, under the needle. Now I'm gonna pull that pin out, but I'm gonna hold that webbing in place. Come back over it. And what I forgot to do here, and why I definitely make sure I have a seam ripper, is I forgot to leave a hole along the edge for me to turn this thing inside out. So I'm gonna go with my seam ripper and just prick underneath some of this thread. Now I like to pretend that I did this on purpose, but really I just wasn't thinking. I was just sewing and telling you all about it. So I'm gonna pick out a couple. Now I'm pulling a little bit down here, but I'm gonna go further down where I need to turn it the rest of the way, and I'll go to the other end and find the other end. Get my seam ripper underneath that, and then I can start just sort of picking. You don't want to cut too far into the fabric if you can help it. So I'm just trying to pick the thread up, and I used a very short seam allowance, so that's why it's taking a little bit of time. So it's funny, I made a, my two grandmothers that taught me how to sew, one of them told me that she had made hundreds of quilts in her lifetime and nobody had ever given her a quilt. So I decided that I was gonna make her a quilt. And I was still in college, or right after college, but still living in a college town. And I bought fabric and I was gonna make her a log cabin quilt because that's my very favorite design. And I decided to make them 1-inch wide strips, but I forgot that there were seam allowances. So I cut all these strips and I couldn't afford more. So I made her what was basically turned into 1/2-inch wide strips. So I made a log cabin quilt that has 1,800 pieces and is barely big enough for somebody's lap. Holy cow, that was a crazy summer, a crazy winter of sewing and sewing and sewing and not going anywhere with anybody because I was too busy sewing and sewing and sewing. But I did make it for her and gave her this fantastic gift that is actually in my house now because she's since passed away, and that was the one thing that I asked if I could have back. My grandfather was very kind to give it back to me. So, all right, I'm going to but talk about weird mistakes. That was one huge mistake that I made that really affected a whole lot of stuff. I'm gonna come in here and clip these corners just to make it a little easier to turn. So just cut off the corners, not too close to the stitching, just to get some of the bulk out of there when I turn this inside out. So it might be hard to do where the webbing is, so just, you know, be careful. Come in here and do that. And then we're gonna turn the entire thing inside out. I find that hole where I did that. All right, it's almost turned inside out. I gotta just get a hold of it. Okay. Now I'm gonna come in here and push all of the fabric inside out. I'm making a big rectangle basically, and you'll start to see pieces come out because we have those, we have the elastic right here. It's gonna pop out. And then we have that buckle that's gonna pop out as well. All right, and then I'm gonna use my stiletto. I have this great stiletto from Fons and Porter. And I'm gonna use this to point the corners out, or you can use a turner or something else. I'm gonna reach in right here where this is and go to the top corner and just gently push this out. You're not trying to shove through the corner, because you will. You'll shove through the corner and you'll have to go sew it again. So very carefully. And here on the other end, I'm gonna do the same thing. Oh, nice. Same thing down here. I'm gonna pop that corner out. Same thing on the other side where the elastic comes. You can pull the elastic to help pull it out. It's kind of fun. Pop that corner out. All right, and then I need to go to the iron and press this out, fold this corner in where it is, and get ready to put in my pleats. Let's go over there now. So we're here at the iron, and the side where the buckle pops out is gonna be the back of the mask. So this goes around your head. Not that that matters now, but it will matter in the future. And I'm gonna just get this as flat as I possibly can using my iron to press it. Use some steam. I talked about this iron in my last video, in the scarf mask video, but oh my goodness, it's actually really good. I'm enjoying this iron a lot more than I thought I would, because it puts out a lot more steam than I was expecting this tiny little iron to do. So if you've got space issues, this is a great iron for it. There will be a link in the description so you can go buy one if you want. And just full disclosure, it is my Amazon referral account, which means I do get a few pennies every time you buy something through that link. So, hey, if you feel like doing it, great. If not, no worries. It does help with my own Amazon addiction, buying crazy stuff, because then they give me like a credit to my account. It doesn't add anything to the price though. So just so you understand, it's still the same price you would pay for anything else. Now I'm gonna fold these edges in here because I need to fold that. And one of the secrets is you can kind of pull and it'll start to tuck those edges in naturally where you need to tuck them in. And yeah, look at that, it's gonna go in. And or you can just make sure you know it's gotta be that 3/8 inch seam. And I'm really hitting the steam. Look at that steam pouring out there. I literally haven't refilled this since the last video I made, so it's doing really well. All right, so now that we have the whole thing sewn around the outside, but we left this piece open, I need to put my nose bridge in here at the top. And I put a wire in. I'm gonna use this flexible tie that I get out of the gardening section of Dollar Tree. So it's only $1. And I'm gonna cut it about the width of this entire piece, maybe a little bit shorter than that. And I'm gonna stitch it in along the top. So leave a little room on the side so I don't stitch through it later. Using my junkier scissors. And I'm gonna feed this through the side and put it all along the top edge. And then I'm gonna do a stitch about 3/8 of an inch down that covers it. So I put my hand up in here because it's gonna trap it to the side. So I can reach in there with my fingers and get it right along this seam at the top. So I can feel it as it goes up there. Oh, that's good. Seam along the top. And then you can kind of see it in there. It's sort of, see it's bending in that shape. So I'm gonna put this in the machine and go ahead and stitch right along the top. I'm gonna use about, like I said, about a 3/8 inch seam allowance. And I'm just pulling I'm pulling that wire right into the seam. And then I'm running my presser foot right along the wire to also push it into the seam. And what that does is it's sort of like you're doing cording or using a piping foot. And there you go. Look at how that's finished that whole piece in. I'll do a little trim. Now, you didn't have to cut at that point if you didn't want to. You could have just kept sewing all the way around. So let me go back in there and I'll keep sewing the whole piece all the way around using an edge stitch. Now I'm going at a 1/4 inch edge stitch. You could do an 1/8 inch near the edge, really close to the edge. I'm just using the edge of the presser foot. And because I had used a 3/8 inch seam before, this will actually catch all the pieces, so it's gonna really hold that webbing in even better. Then I like to leave my needle down so I can just pivot. And then the nice part is this is gonna hold in that opening where we turn the fabric in here. It'll hold that in. And it stitches that in place. And now we're ready to put in our pleats. Now to put in our pleats, we have to decide which side is the front, and that's actually gonna be whatever side that the buckle is on the back of. So the buckle is back here, so this becomes the front of our piece. And I'm gonna need to put some folds in just to find some reference points. Because what I wanna do is basically pull in some pleats that are gonna be quite sizable. And this will allow me to do that as I go down. To get those pleats in though, I need a frame of reference. So I'm gonna fold this entire thing in half. So fold it down in half and let's steam in. Lots of steam. Then we open it up. I'm gonna fold in half again now to just the center point, so that makes it a 1/4 piece. Okay, and then I'm going to fold the bottom in up to that center line that I had already ironed, which gives us another 1/4. Open that up. Then I'm gonna take this center line and skip this top line, skip the center and go down to the other end. This is gonna cut this piece in half. So now I've got, see, all these here, which looks great. Then I'm gonna do the same thing, bring this bottom edge up to this farthest crease. You could have replicated that just by connecting this crease to that one, but this works out really well. And then I'm gonna pull the bottom up just to that bottom crease and put that in as well. And I can do the same with the top, flip it over. And this is basically gonna cut this up into 8 even pieces. Let's cut this into 8 even cuts. Now I'm going to take this particular line here, the top one, and bring it down to here, but because this is the outside, I want the pleats to go down, I'm gonna kind of have to fold it back against itself. I'm just really had that line there to get a line. Bring that in, and let me go ahead and iron that. Press that in, perfect. I'm gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna bring that line that was there down. Well, sorry, wrong thing. I'm gonna bring a center line, if this makes any sense, down to the middle one. So I didn't actually put a center line there, I had to fold it in half. Same thing here, I'm gonna bring the center about a 1/2 inch down and bring it to this one. All right, and then I'm gonna do one last one. I'm gonna basically bring this half line down to the bottom. Keep all these other pleats in place. Now, if you want to, you could skip that last pleat if you have somebody with a really long beard. I'm gonna do that one for this one, just so you see. I'm gonna skip the last pleat in there, just pleat up near the top of the head. Now you can use clips or pins. I'm gonna go ahead and pin this together. Using my pins. I'm just gonna pin at the edges. And then it's going to sew each of the two sides where all those pleats come together. All right, so I've sewed down each of the sides there, and next thing I do is put the elastic toggle. So what I do is I go down here, find the center of that, and you could find a couple ways to do that. Just find the center of the elastic. I'm going to use this little toggle. I buy these silicone toggles like 100 pieces at a time on Amazon. The link is in the description below. And I'm gonna put the little bobby pin they send with it onto it. You could also use a small crochet hook. And then I squeeze it together, put that through, and just pull the toggle down. And that's gonna let somebody adjust how big it fits their head. Now, I will tell you, I did a 10-inch piece in this 10-inch fabric that becomes about 9 and a little less than 9, about 9 inches or so. Gets a little bit better. Maybe it's not quite as long as I'd like. I maybe add 11 or 12 because this can really adjust. So let me show you now that we're finished with the pieces, how it works on my face. So you'll have to imagine that I have a big long beard instead of this, much shorter thing that I keep beautifully coiffed. When I tell people I'm going to the barber, they're like, for what? And I'm like, no, it's to trim the beard up and make it look good. So here we go. We've got the pieces, and I'm gonna unhook the little dog collar. Don't tell the person you're giving it to it was a dog collar if you're worried about it. And this is the smallest one they had, by the way. But they were larger sizes, and they were only $1, all of them. Didn't matter what size they were. So I'm gonna open that up. So those hang off the sides. I'll put this against my head. Just pull that around the back of my head there. Pinch the nose bridge. Remember that material, that flexible tie that we put in there? Pinch that over my nose. And then I can hook this around my beard, right? And then it just hooks in the back. And obviously, the person who does this quite often will be more comfortable with that. And then imagine if I had a big long beard, that would really hold it all in there. You could add a few more pleats if you thought this was too long, right? But they can also adjust the length on that, on the back of their neck. And what I really like about it is if you're wearing this with a beard and you have this big poofy beard in there, you can just grab the piece at the top of your head here and pull this down, and now it's laying around your neck, and you can eat or talk or whatever you're going to do on the phone. I wouldn't talk directly to somebody because you're supposed to still maintain all the distance or whatever, but then when it's time to put it back on, literally pulls right back on, and then it's not pulling around your ears, so if you wear glasses like I do, or you maybe have hearing aids or something, it's going to fit really well. All right, that is an adaptation of that fantastic that fantastic beard design mask that really wonderful couple has made. Please make sure you check out their channel, like and subscribe their channel too, because even as much as you like this channel, we need to support other content creators, and I'm so proud of them for putting out a great video. They are criminally undersubscribed. You should go subscribe to them now, and if just to watch the really amazing beanbag video that she made for her 1.5-year-old child, it's so good. You should go do that for all of your grandkids. All right, until next time, like and subscribe to their channel, like and subscribe my channel, and stay crafty. Bye for now. Now it makes me almost want to like grow my beard out super long so I can wear this thing.
Please don't.
Thanks, Lori. Oh my God, Lori just made so much fun of me. Listen, I forgot to rate this for you before I hung up, so let me just tell you. I don't have a beard, so I have a hard time rating that. I do like the fact that it has the one piece of elastic, and I've rated that in other videos as a 9 out of 10. I think it's a 9 out of 10 here too. It's not the most comfortable thing because it has all this huge piece on it. So I'm gonna say comfort-wise, it's more like a 7 out of 10 because it's pretty tight on my face and this could get annoying. But if you had a beard, I think you'd really like this one because, you know, where can you find a mask that actually works really well and covers over your entire beard? So in terms of efficiency as well, you could add a filter pocket to make it more efficient. I think it's probably a 7 out of 10, but for what it's doing, which is helping on a beard, I'm thinking it's probably a 10 out of 10 because it does exactly what so many other masks don't do. So overall, those are my ratings for this mask. All right, bye for now, the second time.